Match once again. Welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time for Lucas, as for another commentary on an episode of a 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon. And this is the Shredder Strikes Back, Part 1. And once again, thanks go out to Lucas for his generosity. For those requesting pretty much any type of videos or topics, randomness, out of the blueness, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. So I have a pause at the beginning. I don't have the video because I think Nickelodeon would screw me over. But yeah, the Shredder Strikes Back Part 2. 3, 2, 1, press and play. Plessen? The fuck does that mean, plessen? Meant pressing, but... Set... 10 seconds in now. Yeah, but pretty much this is one of a two-part episode where... The first part is pretty much Leonardo on a run on this gauntlet of bad guys, leading up to him getting beaten up and thrown through a skylight, similar to... That happened in the original comics, and then when it was adapted into the 1990 movie, they changed it to Raphael, and then here it's back to Leonardo. So this episode is pretty much the family enjoying their stay at April's apartment while Leonardo's on this gauntlet. And then part 2 is the pretty much one big long fight. And I thought that was actually a right usage of parts, because part 1 you do all the build up, and then part 2 is just consistent amount of action, beginning to end, like one big action sequence. And that definitely made it satisfying. But yeah, in the original comic books, it was Leonardo getting beaten up, thrown through a skylight. I can see why they changed the Raphael in the 1990 film. He was kind of the main character, although I don't think they followed up on that in the second part. I love the 1990 film. That's just one of my few issues with it is they do all the build-up where Raphael saves April O'Neil. He meets Casey Jones. He has that talk with Splinter. But then the third act, I wish they just followed all the way through. But I still love that film, as well as the sequel, Secret News. Now that by this point we've been introduced to April O'Neil. And like the second or third episode we're introduced to April O'Neil. And in this show, it's similar to the original comics where April O'Neil was not a news reporter. She was an assistant to a scientist. And again, that was in the comic books then for the cartoon, the 80s cartoon, and then the 1990 movie, they changed it to the TV news reporter. So they definitely changed a couple stuff when the 80s cartoon happened. Like Baxter Stockman went from black to white, and different type of scientist. April O'Neil was no longer an assistant to a scientist. She was now a reporter. Hers were much more goofier and silly. While here is definitely more in tone with the comics. Not 100% accurate to the comics, but definitely much more so. Pretty much compared to all iterations, the 1990 movie and this are the closest to the comic books. Again, I commend the animators on this show. I think they did a really good job. I mean, just the different angles, the style. I hear they make it seem as if it's widescreen with the black bars top and bottom. Again, the different angles, the certain elements that showcase speed. And this pretty much showcases Leo's one long day. It shows that he's capable of fighting himself, defending himself, just can't do it all by himself. Which is why you need the other turtles. So it makes them more worthwhile. So I mean, like moments like that, like showcasing the reflection on the blade, that's a cool artistic choice. again, the show doesn't get the respect it deserves because this was successful enough to spawn technically 7 seasons or so, give or take, and then the Turtles Forever movie. You don't go that long if you're a flop. So it was successful enough, but then it's been completely forgotten because where can people find it to watch other than YouTube? Nickelodeon never re-released it on their channel, anywhere in between. Yeah, I don't blame Raph. See, again, little moments like that definitely showcase the family dynamic. Just Mikey being a pest and Raph just like, fucking shit. If he could curse, he would have said that more, fucking shit. That's one of the things is little. I know in some like character, like if they talk about the characteristics of a turtle, they'll say that Mikey's like a pretty good cook. Obviously not in this show, but it's one of those things that with this type of show or with these type of characters, you do a lot with each of these characters. You deal with Leonardo's determination to be a leader, protecting his brothers, but at the same time, you're spending so much time doing that, you're not really living the life of a teenager. You know, this Mikey who is happy and he's the baby brother, but at the same time, you know, how many times are those smiles going to be fake and phony? Just you want to make your brothers happy even if you're not. And you want to be artistic, you want to go out into the world and do stuff you can't. Donatello, he's a guy who's a doctor, he's a scientist, but at the same time, you're like, okay, if they really need help, you can't just go to a hospital. So that's a lot of pressure and stress. To have to fix everything, you have to be a doctor to your own family, you gotta do everything by yourself. That's what I mean, like, you could go a depth into each of those. But people just, you know, when you say that, people just scoff at you. I'm like, well, if I was talking about Captain America or Batman or Iron Man, people wouldn't laugh. But if I say this, people would laugh. I'm like, well, guess what? There was a time where people thought Batman was ridiculous. But it's how you utilize it. That definitely reminds me of the older movies, Splinter, same kids. And even when in the second film, when they're playing sort of with the pizza, playing back and forth, this little football game in April's apartment. Yeah, by this point, the bad guys are in the tunnel, so that's why they're up here. Scrub Boys is pretty good, though. Especially if you put a little bit of cheese in them. And that's also another thing is that you have the leader out of commission, but then it showcases that the other three can hold their own as well as the shit hits the fan in the second episode. So you get the best of both worlds. You deem Leonardo a tough guy because he was by himself, but you deem the other three worthwhile, especially in the second, again, the second part of this. So you again kind of you have your cake, you eat it too. As heavy as this gauntlet, like you have the Foot Clan, then you have these characters, which that was mentioned before at a previous episode that they could go invisible with this technology, with this technology, this armor, kind of like a predator cloaking device. I did little details like the footprints with the rain, the wet puddles. Some of those little details are nice to see. Then a nice usage of rain to show a little bit of mood, so it's not as bland of a looking shot or sequence. And of course, your commercial break. And sorry I'm not saying much, but it's pretty straightforward of what's going on here. I mean, the thing with the turtles, like I first saw them in the '80s cartoon. The '80s cartoon was my introduction, like it was for a lot of people. And then on CBS Saturday morning, I would watch them, enjoy them, enjoy the toys, some of the early video games, and especially enjoyed the 1990 and 1991 movies. And like I've said before, as time went on, when 95, 96, 97, there wasn't really anything going on with the Turtles. Interest died down, including with myself, a lot of others. And for me, this reinvigorated, because not only do you bring back the show, but it's not cringeworthy, it's well animated, it's very action driven. The Turtles are much more like ninjas. It's learning a little bit more about the comic books, and for a cartoon, they're doing a decent enough job, for the most part, adapting those stories. There are changes here and there, of course. Some for the worse, some for the better. And yeah, for a show that lasted 7 seasons and had a movie, the fact that again Nickelodeon hasn't done anything for this show is just ridiculous to me. Again, there's no Blu-ray, there's no promotion, and Nickelodeon does that because they didn't make the show. So they're like, why should we promote a show we didn't make? We own it, but we're not doing anything with it. It's like if you don't, not going to do anything, sell it to someone else. Let Stream Factory, let someone else get it. Show reruns of it somewhere, anything, man. But you do nothing with it. It's ridiculous to me. It's a fun show, it's an entertaining show, and be better than what the hell's coming in the future. It's better than Michael Bay's bullshit that he produced. Or whatever this new Seth Rogen. And the fact that Seth Rogen's involved with it, that's just gonna be another fucking train wreck. Because that's what I want to see with the Turtles. Seth Rogen type of humor. And you know, Seth Rogen humor I can enjoy. I like Neighbors. I like Pineapple Express. Doesn't mean I want that for these characters. You know what kind of film I want? I want a film like John Wick. Or The Raid Redemption. Or even a film that, you know, you do have action, but you do have humor, levity, but I don't know. I like the idea of Donatello and Raphael watching a football game. And I don't really care for burp jokes. At least not a fart joke like the first Michael-produced movie. At least Blaine's reaction was enjoyable. But again, this lengthy time is showcasing just how tiresome you would get after all this. Again, I keep commenting on the animation, just fairly well done. Definite style to it. And like I said before, it's like a lot of franchises. They'll never, there's a phrase, you can't go home again. And maybe that's the case for a lot of these franchises. I wish, I want, I hope for more, but you don't hope in one end and shit in the other. You see which gets filled up first. That's a gross, but it's truthful as well. As they say, it just doesn't matter, just how it goes. And also, if you're family, it's nice because, you get his moment to shine here, just kicking ass until he's out of commission for the next couple episodes. Give him a moment to shine before you have to put him down for a while. That's not too bad. So it ups the stakes a little bit. Now, these guys here, they're definitely inspired by Big Trouble in Little China. I forget they're called the elite, or the term. But I say it because of the hats. Like, the hats are definitely of the three storms in Big Trouble in Little China. Which, and then that's when the other turtles do go, oh, nice hats. Which is understandable, because from what I understand, in the original comics and stuff, like, Casey Jones, I think it was Kevin Eastman that said one of the inspirations for Casey Jones was Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China, with his attitude and how he is. And when I heard that, I'm like, I did see a bit of Jack Burton and Casey Jones, especially in this show, and the 1990 movie. Like, you look at the way Elias Cote is, there's a little bit of Jack Burton in there, same with in this show. So, yeah, Casey Jones, Jack Burton, I could see that comparison fairly well. I did for a cartoon. This is decently serious stuff that you don't get a lot nowadays. Not even live action, which is a shame. And here we get the culmination of this episode, which will lead into the next one, which again is pretty much an action pat. There we go. Again, that's a nice stylistic choice, having the 5 faces within the shards of broken glass. And yet in the 1990 movie, this is Raphael, but they make Leonardo here. And that'll definitely lead into the second part of this. Which again, you're going into a lot of ass kicking in the next one. And actually later on, it's a nice moment between Raph and Leo where Raph, it's a bonding moment, and just a nice moment where Raph actually helps Leo make new swords. I forget which episode that is, but it's later on. Just a nice little moment between the two. But yeah, another strong episode. I did a bit serious, which I appreciate. Which again, they don't. When you say you could take the turtles seriously, again, you did laughed at and scoffed at, and I'm like, well, if you handle it right, and if you write it well, if you put all the elements like you would in any other movie, then yes, it can work. You could take Captain America seriously, you could take Iron Man seriously, there's still humor, there's still levity, but you could take it seriously, you could do it with these characters. But for some reason, a lot of deaf ears and blind eyes. I think that's always going to be the case with these characters. You know, the Peter Laird obviously had a point of that with the show. That helped in making the show worthwhile. But sadly, I still remember when Kevin Eastman promoted the 2014 Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtle film when that was coming out. Kevin Eastman did. He was like, it's going to have fight scenes like the Raid Redemption and Jet Li's Fist of Legends. Do I even need to say anything with how fucking stupid that was? But anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Later.